I'm trying to contain myself. Okay.
All right. We're here with another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files tonight. And this one was picked by our good friend Robin Mazen, one of our regulars on the show. She slightly likes the band Metallica. We will find out more tonight, but she requested this episode. Joining us tonight is Metal Joe from the Old Bridge Militia in New Jersey. Got some great stories to tell us tonight. First time on Rock Fantasy Files. Another first timer tonight is Lynne Versaci, right? Did I pronounce it correctly?
Versaci, like the designer.
All right, I messed it up. I don't usually introduce you. Pete Pardo does on Mondays, but
That's
she's
right.
from Sea of Tranquility, Hudson Valley Squares on Monday night on the Sea of Tranquility channel. Also has worked at the Chance in the Mid-Hudson Civic Center for many years in Poughkeepsie, New York. We've got Rich Catino back from Metal Asylum and Brave Words, and we've got Jared from Blistered Earth, the Metallica tribute act out in the Northwest, and of course Robin Mazen. I'm just going to start off the show. My favorite album. We're kind of doing our favorite album and maybe a couple songs extra, and just talk about some of our memories and some of our stories with the band. My favorite album is Kill 'Em All, the first one. I remember buying it at Record City in Poughkeepsie, New York, and being blown away by it. Of course, we're going back to those years, and there was heavy stuff out. When this came out, it was very heavy. I remember getting it home. This is one of the albums I kind of bought by album cover. You know, you would go out there and you'd say, wow, cool album cover, great name, take this home. And I was blown away by the song Motor Breath. I love a lot of other songs on it, but Motor Breath at that time was like, wow, this is kind of like Motorhead, but it's just so good. And of course, other great songs on that for me were Hit the Lights, No Remorse, Whiplash. And of course, Ride the Lightning is almost like a close second with Fight Fire with Fire, Trapped Under Ice, Creeping Death. I was lucky enough to see them on the Kill 'Em All tour at the State Theater in Port Jervis, New York. And here in Middletown at JB's Rock 3, that club was behind the fairgrounds in Middletown. What an amazing experience to see this young, hungry band traveling around, you know, back then in just a van and like a U-Haul trailer or something on them. And it was just things I'll always remember. I also got to see them at L'Amour's with Wasp and Armored Saint. We took a bus ride from Rock and Roll Heaven North, which was Johnny Z's cousin, Harold Risch. That was up in Warwick, and that was in support of Ride the Lightning. Then I got to see him on the Master of Puppets tour twice, once at the Glen Falls Civic Center, also at the Meadowlands Arena at Glens Falls, where I got to chat with Cliff Burton after the show. We were just walking out, a bunch of metalhead kids, and there he was. And he stopped and talked to us. You know, the other band looked like they were busy, but other guys in the band, they came out and talked with us. At the Meadowlands on that same tour, it was a near riot. We were talking about this show last week with Philip Sasson from Ozzy Osbourne from the Ultimate Sin tour. Folks were ripping out seat cushions, and it was like a crazy time. So I'm just finishing up everything, so we're going to have everybody else tell stories. And then I saw them, of course, another show on the Mid-Hudson Civic, at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center was on the Master of Puppets. That's with Newstead, after tragically we lost Cliff Burton, and with Metal Church. And then I'm going to kind of wrap this thing up for me and let everybody else talk. I also got to see them here in Middletown, July 14th, 1989. They were at the Orange County Fair Speedway.
I worked that show.
You were there? Okay.
Yeah, I worked it.
It was that was supporting the Justice for All album, I believe, with the Cult was the opening act. Again, in June 94, they came back to Middletown. So they've been to Middletown 3 times over the years, and people remember these shows. They were with Danzig and Suicidal Tendencies, which was a really heavy night, and it was a really hot summer night. And it was
Steven, I actually saw that in New Jersey. I was actually thinking about my memory, and that's going to be one of my memories is for that tour when they did the PNC Art Center, I want to say, right? Yeah.
It might have been the night that the night that makes this kind of memorable for me, other than it was a great concert, it was the night of the O.J. Simpson chase. I had left during the encores to do an after party at a local club called Sportland USA. Z-Rock Radio was on board. We were doing a big promotion, like come over after the show because it was right down the street. And everyone was glued to the TV watching this white Ford Bronco drive around. I was like, what's going on? I kind of parted ways with them a little bit after they did the Black album with the releases of Load, as they were heading in a different waters, a different direction than I was musically. I was still looking for more extreme stuff, and they were kind of going commercial. But I totally love my memories from Metallica from the 80s. And who wants to go first on the show tonight? I did my long-winded intro, and
I'll jump in if you don't mind.
Lynne's gonna go first. Lynne, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in. So I'm gonna
Jump in the
piggyback.
fire.
I'm gonna jump in because I'm jumping in because you said it already. Is Ride the Lightning. That's my favorite album from Megaforce Records, 1984. I mean, that album. I loved Kill 'Em All. Kill 'Em All was a good man, Rich. I mean, Kill 'Em All was great, but for me, it was like it was heavy, but it was more one dimensional. And I feel like when they went to Ride the Lightning, it got like multi-dimensional with like a heaviness, but a deeper feel. With the lyrics, with the harmonies, with the guitar parts. I mean, the Call of Cthulhu, like that is my favorite instrumental of all time. It's ridiculous. That song is just, I dare you to listen to that song and not feel something, it's like ominous. And it's a really cool song. So for me, Ride the Lightning, I mean, Trapped Under Ice, Fade to Black, right? Which everybody likes, but Ride the Lightning, Fight Fire with Fire, like as soon as it starts, you're pretty psyched. So yeah, I mean, for me, Ride the Lightning, just, I don't know. It still to this day gets me crazy. And of course I have teenage kids and my kids are like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like mom's freaking out, like, cause they listen to that rap music, which I don't even know how, cause I did play Metallica when they were little.
Yeah, like you didn't, they're not following in your footsteps, unfortunately.
They're not, unfortunately. So they think I'm crazy when they see me headbanging and stuff. They're like, nobody else's mother does that. I'm like, nobody else's mother like worked with musicians for 30 years, doing
Maybe
production for all these tours,
The other mothers aren't cool enough to do that.
Damn them, they're not. But it's funny. So I was at the Civic Center all the times they played.
Okay.
I think I might have lost an undergarment on one of the buses that night. I don't know if it was on stage on the bus, but either way, I came home without it. And I was young. What can I say? And, Orange County Speedway, I was the runner for all 3 times they played there. And but great bunch of guys and always a good time. I mean, I like the production aspect of things anyway. When you're doing a show, I mean, from setup to breakdown for me, it makes it worthwhile. It makes those 2 hours. It's like, holy shit, the trusses and the lights and the this and the that. And then at the end, you get the breakdown and it's like, wow, all that to see the crowd go crazy. It's intense. And they were nice guys. I remember working for them. They were great guys. I don't think their riders were too crazy back then. And again, Orange County really didn't have a backstage area. So it was kind of like a tent, and then the tour bus,
like a utility trailer, didn't they, or something there? Yeah. So I mean, but it was a good time, and again, I didn't realize, when you asked me to be on the show, and you were like, yeah, pick your favorite Metallica album. I'm like, oh, that's easy. And then I was looking, and I was like, holy shit, like I really could have picked any one because they're all ridiculous. And I think Blackened for me, off And Justice for All from 1988, I think that's probably my favorite Metallica tune, because again, that song just fucking gets me crazy the second it starts. How could it not, right? But yeah, good times. And I think Rich probably picked the same record as me because he had it.
I did actually. I mean, I could follow you up if you guys want me to.
Rich
go
can
for
come
it.
up next
My
year.
choice.
Go for it. I saw that.
Yeah.
I love that electric chair, man.
Oh, it's great. This artwork is awesome. I like Kill 'Em All too.
And Rich, did you know, and I didn't know this till now, I didn't know that the name actually came from a passage in a Stephen King novel, The Stand?
No,
I didn't know that, but I found that out today and I thought that was pretty badass.
Okay.
Yeah, well, when I was getting this music, I was too young and I didn't get to see these bands live at that time. But
fuck, I'm old.
What's that?
I said I'm just old, bro.
I'm only a couple years younger than you guys. But in 82, 83, 84, 85, I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. My parents wouldn't let me go. But I remember buying these records and Kill 'Em All. I mean, Kill 'Em All and then Ride the Lightning was the second one. I got that in 84 when it came out. And yeah, just the artwork was so striking. But then listening to the music, like Fight Fire with Fire, how that starts off so quiet.
Yeah.
And then it just kicks in and kills you. And you don't expect it. It's this album was such a dynamic like evolution compared to Kill 'Em All. Even though I
Yeah.
love Kill 'Em All, it's great. It's great, but this between, Fight Fire with Fire, how it starts off, and then Ride the Lightning, the title track is like an epic. Bells is like slower. Fade to Black is like a ballad. Then you got Trapped Under Ice, which is pretty brutal, and I love the lyrics too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like
Yeah.
Escape. I know a lot of people don't like Escape. I really like that song. Very cool. I really like that one.
I like it.
And Creeping Death, and then like you said about Call of Cthulhu, what a great instrumental.
Oh, it's
It's-
ridiculous.
It's a
I think
perfect
what happened
album.
with this record is I think that Cliff Burton came in with his knowledge of music theory and just kind of changed everything up,
They
you
said
know?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
You can hear it's such a change between this album and Kill 'Em All.
Totally.
Kill 'Em All's, semi one-dimensional, not completely, but this totally expands what their musical abilities were,
Yeah.
and then, Puppets perfectly complements that afterwards. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a great brother-sister combination,
Totally.
And I couple memories about, buying these records at the time. It scared the shit out of my mom. I felt so bad for her. Just by the album covers, between this and Ozzy and Maiden and Priest and Venom and Sabbath and Motley Crue and Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister, all those bands, my mother was like in tears at some point. I remember. She's
Oh
like,
my
what are you
God.
listening? She was like, oh my God, what are you listening to? Are you worshiping the devil? What's going on here? It was terrible. I felt so bad for her.
And she didn't even hear your Merciful Fate record yet.
Yeah.
Oh, that too. That was
Bless
another
some
one.
King Diamond for her.
Yes, Melissa and Don't Break the Oath. That was very scary for her too.
High
Yeah.
dose from mom.
What?
High dose from mom. Had a high dose from mom for sure.
She always, supported me. She always supported me buying the music because I was a good kid. So
I
it
mean,
was cool.
back in those days, even most all of us were a little taken back from Merciful Fate because it was the most
Yeah.
evil thing on earth, other than maybe Venom. When you went and I saw them at the
Yeah.
Capitol Theater Passaic when King Diamond comes out and he goes, "I'd like to turn the Capitol Theater into the house of Satan," and like people are looking
You
around.
sound like Dracula.
yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to do my best Dracula King Diamond impression.
That was
Even
not. That
something,
was.
even
I'm
something
gonna.
simple
I'm
like
knowing
this.
King.
This-
I'm gonna say that's not that close.
Not close at all.
It
But
was a good
even
try.
something simple, like this imagery is scary for people at that time.
Oh
The
yeah.
electric chair with the lightning, nobody saw that.
No. Nope.
So combine this with buying all the other metal that was coming out.
Sure.
Yeah, my parents weren't having it, but I was still able to get it.
And you had spoke a little bit about that last week's episode where we were covering Ozzy Osbourne. We were talking about the Meadowlands Arena, and you said that was one of the reasons because they were having so many riots at
Yeah.
the Burn Arena, like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff. And your parents are like, no, stand
No,
back.
I didn't get a chance to see. I didn't get a chance to see Metallica until Justice and the Black Album because I was driving by
Okay.
then,
Yeah.
so I was able to do my own thing. So
Cool, man.
I missed those early years, But luckily MTV was there, so I got to see all these bands and a lot of concert footage, on MTV. Like we were doing the Ozzy episode about Speak of the Devil and what else was on there? The Ultimate Sin tour they played on there.
Yeah. Saturday nights used to be the MTV and
Headbangers Ball.
and we used to have
Yeah.
Metal Shop on the
Oh,
radio. Yeah.
And if you remember, I don't know if you remember U68. That was the other channel that would play a lot of videos. Remember U68 on the East
I don't
Coast?
think I had that up in New York. Maybe
I didn't have it.
No.
Oh, okay, we had that here in the New Jersey area. That was a great channel.
Okay.
Like I remember seeing Celtic Frost on there
Oh my
Wow.
God.
for Circle of Tyrants.
Yeah, we used to get USA Night Flight, but we're way off
Remember
subject
Night
now.
Flight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Night Flight used to
I
play
remember
some
Night
videos.
Flight.
I remember like Wendy
Yeah, we
O and the
got-
Plasmatics being on there. Cool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Oh,
Metallica didn't have a video at that time.
No.
And
Nope.
Anthrax did, Megadeth did, but Slayer and Metallica.
They didn't have a video till 1, I think.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's like,
Later,
Yeah.
yeah.
So up until then, I never even saw concert footage of them. I don't think, unless there was something out there that I missed.
True. Yeah.
I saw the.
That's
what
how
was it?
underground they were in those first couple
Right.
albums. They didn't have a video.
I know what I saw. They had the combat tour. You remember that? That was, I think, like
Yes.
Exodus and Agent Steel and Anthrax was one bill, I think, and then the other one was like Venom, Slayer, and somebody
There
else,
was,
right?
no, it
like
was
two different-
Venom, Slayer, and Exodus, I think was the first one. I can't remember right now.
And then
Oh,
there was
Dark,
a
and then
second one
Dark
that had,
Age,
like,
then there was the Ultimate Revenge 2.
and then there's another one with Overkill, Agent Steel, and I want to say Anthrax was the other one.
Nice.
I can't
Maybe.
really.
So
I don't
that's how I got
remember now.
those bands live. That's how I
Yeah,
got
that
to see
was on
those
the
bands live.
comp, because they
You
did
were-
the Ultimate Revenge and the Ultimate Revenge 2.
You were
And I
too
remember
young
we
to
used
be
to watch
there.
the one all the time on VHS, like, be like watching it.
Yep. Yeah.
Rich was too young to be there and I'm too old to remember.
I'm gonna send you some fucking Geritol.
I still have one.
Do they still have Geritol? Do they still
They
make
must.
Geritol?
There's old people.
Hey, since Butcher's in here, doesn't mean you can pick on me, Lynn.
I love you, Steve.
I know. I should have got Butch on. I didn't think we'd have room for him, but I apologize to Butch Jones. We'll get him on another episode. But cool, Rich. Should we move over to Jared and say hello to him and see what his point of view
Hello,
is?
Jared.
Sure, yeah. So
Welcome to
I guess
the
my
show.
pick is pretty fitting, given the previous two selections. I don't know, picking a favorite Metallica album is it's very tough. I mean, those first four, right? Like you could just throw a dart, and they're all great for their own reason. But I would go with this one here.
Nice.
And I don't know, the reasons are like Ride the Lightning is my favorite in terms of production. I get the guitar tone, the drums, it just sounds so badass. But I think Puppets just does not have any weakness anywhere. So that's why I had to go with Puppets. All the way through, I think every track is killer. The title track, Sanitarium with its like epic ending to it, the sort of classical feel it's got going. Orion, obviously, and Cliff's influence there. So yeah, I would have to go with Puppets. And then, so I don't know, when it comes to me, my story is obviously a lot more modern than what you all. I don't have the same pedigree as some of the people on this call, I would say.
Your story is awesome, though.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. So as it was mentioned, I play in this Metallica tribute band, Blistered Earth. We're up in the Northwest. It's a pretty good time. I know tribute bands get like a bad rap or whatever, but it's we just kind of view it as a good opportunity to play the old school Metallica. That's kind of all we do is we rock the first four albums and just view it as a good excuse to party and play good tunes. Anyways, so we were on this tour up in Portland, Oregon, and after the show we went to a hotel. Wake up the next morning, our trailer is gone with all our gear in it. Yeah, it was.
That's not the good part of the story, just so you know.
No, that's the worst.
That's the worst part of the story.
And I had a JCM 800. I had a Mark 5 in there. It was a lot of gear and a lot of money. Anyways, so somehow this gets back to Metallica. I'm not sure how. The word I got was like James found out and like told them the powers that be over there at the corporation. Anyways, they find out about this and we get a call from Lars who's wanting to saying he wants to replace our gear. And I don't know, I have a Lars impression that I like to do in this situation, where he like he has this tendency to like do this with his hair and he kind of licks his lips and he's like, hey man, so I hear you guys got ripped off over there in Portland. We'd like to help you out,
That's so
It's the most surreal thing ever. You hear this voice from that you've heard from all these videos.
Crazy.
But yeah, no, it was a cool. So they replaced our stuff. They bought us all new gear, and we got to hang out with them at a couple shows. So that was actually the only, you guys are talking about seeing him in the glory days. The only time I ever saw him was I saw him in 2008, and at that point I was like 18. And then I saw him 2016. This was when all this went down, and yeah, we got to meet and hang out. And,
that is awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I can't even like that's just that shows like
cool.
For me it just shows like I could go on and on about Metallica and I'll always say it like they always remember where they come from and would do stuff like that. They're all about, like, in my mind, from what I see and what I think, I feel like that's just how they are. They don't have to do that. And like, that's amazing that they went out of their way and replaced
Yeah, that's
everything.
pretty
Invited
awesome.
you
Yeah, that's
to.
great.
And
That
the,
is pretty awesome.
the cool thing was, is like, it wasn't just like a financial gesture too. Like any, you'd imagine, of course they got the money. They could just throw some money at some tribute band, but they,
Yeah.
they invited us. They wanted to hang out, and Lars was cool. He was like, he was like talking about how he looked us up online, and he like, knew what we do and stuff. And you could tell that they actually put some thought into it, which was, it was really meaningful. I mean, the financial part was meaningful as well, but the thought behind it was
Sure.
was something else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Can I jump in here on
Very
that
cool.
story?
Jared, you must have to pinch yourself a little bit during this, right?
Oops, I can't.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because especially because some of this wasn't insured, right? I had an interesting situation where I was living in a different place from where the homeowner's policy was, where I was going to make the claim, right? And
Mhm.
I was a little bit on the edge of whether that was going to be insurance fraud or not, and whether to make the claim or not. I guess they saved my bacon there a little bit. But I mean, in addition to just, it's just surreal.
So Joe, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, I want to add to that story. Well,
Excellent.
Metallica, well, obviously you know about what happened with Metallica in Boston, right? With their equipment.
Fill us in.
All right, well, they were living with me at my house in like 82 and 83. So they were going to be going on a European tour, leaving my house in like 2 weeks. So there was a show that was going to be happening up in Boston on like a Friday, and the crew went up on Thursday with the U-Haul truck. This ties into his story about the equipment, which obviously you guys haven't heard, but
Sure.
about 4 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings at my house, and it's Johnny Z. The band's still at my house, and there's a killer snowstorm up in Boston and in New Jersey. But the phone call came in from Johnny, and the U-Haul truck with all Metallica's equipment was in there. It was gone, was stolen,
Oh,
the whole truck. So that kind of ties into how maybe, down the road with running into a Metallica cover band, it kicked into their heads, hey, remember when all our stuff got stolen? And they had everything was stolen. I mean, the only thing that was left was like, because that was way back, man, no cell phones and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Johnny Z is on the phone. I'm like, dude, I'm not telling Metallica, these guys, that their whole truck got stolen. Because let's face it, all they had was like a drum kit, one stack, one head each, and a couple guitars. This is when Metallica just came from California to Old Bridge, New Jersey, and then they're leaving on a European tour. So I'm like, nah, I'm not telling them that. You're going to tell them that. So, the house just changed over because it was like doom and gloom, man. Like, hey, we got no equipment. And it took like 2 hours to find out that the crew had their guitars in the room because it was so cold. You're not supposed to keep a guitar in the truck. So they left for Europe. When they left for Europe on their first European tour, all they had was 3 guitars. And me and my buddy Rock and Ray, we scrounged up $100 each to give to them, so they had some spending money. Now, out of that whole situation, James Hetfield wrote "Fade to Black" on my couch.
Oh,
So you
wow.
guys are all into Ride the Lightning. Half it, like, I'm sitting here freaking out because "Fight Fire with Fire," "Trapped Under Ice," and "Fade to Black" was written at my house. Because they went to Europe, and that's where they recorded Ride the Lightning was in Europe. So you guys are talking all about like that age. I feel like I'm real old now because the thing that I really like is that Johnny Z came down to my house with the demo, okay, and wanted to know what we guys thought because I had a house on 29 acres where we partied pretty heavily, and he knew we partied and we were into the metal because Johnny Z was kind of older and he had his record store, but he was more like Grateful Dead type of guy. So we were the younger guys that were into metal. So here you go. This is crazy, man. He comes down to my house with the demo tape. We're all partying. And all of a sudden we got the demo tape and like, holy shit, what the fuck is this coming out of nowhere? Metallica. Or shit, Johnny's the greatest story ever sold is Johnny Z talking Metallica into driving across the country to Old Bridge, New Jersey to sign a contract. And that's where it all started. So a week later, 2 weeks later, the band that you just heard on a demo tape that don't even have an album out is in your town. And then in my first night, they came down to my brother-in-law's house to hang out and party. And that's when I met the band, Cliff Burton, and the whole band was at his house. And the next night or 2 nights later, they were down in my house and we had like a drum kit, a bass, and one guitar upstairs. And that's the first place Metallica played on the East Coast, was in a bedroom in what they call Metal Joe's Funhouse. Upstairs, yeah, pretty nuts, right? 60 years old man, I'm talking about Metal Joe's Funhouse, but that's the first place in town.
All right.
Well, I know it's pretty crazy, but in the same house, so I'm gonna make it short. In the same house, later on, they played with a full PA in the basement with Kurt Hammond. So in that same house, they wrote "Fade to Black" out of that story from Boston, which took me 30 years to find out because they never said none until James said it when on the Howard Stern show. They were playing "Fade to Black," and he said, they were talking about it, and he said, "I wrote that song on Metal Joe's couch." I didn't even hear it, but my buddy started calling me up. So 30 years later, I found out that he wrote "Fade to Black," which is like, their Stairway to Heaven, and musically, I mean, that's pretty classic. So we had some early times with Metallica before they even had Kill 'Em All out. So pretty crazy. So I feel really old tonight with the younger people that have came into the scene a lot later. So I appreciate it. I'd like to say a shout out because we lost Marsha Z not too long ago, a couple, not too long ago, and she was a very special lady. Johnny Z was like the brawn and the Spitfire guy, and Marsha was more nurturing, person. But they just worked so well together, and they're the ones that got Metallica to come from California to New Jersey. So
Nice.
I just want to throw that in there because, I hear a story about them, paying, buying that equipment, and then I think about, hey, they know exactly where you were, but they were, kids then, you know what I mean? Like they had nothing. They went on that tour and people were lending them stuff the whole tour. Lars had no drum kit, none, and I have the only piece of that drum kit left. I got to show you this, just as one picture. Okay. Because this is, shit. I got to find it. Wait a minute. So I'll show you a picture of these guys. Let's see if I can't do this. Wait a minute.
No, you
had it before.
Oh
yeah, that's the living room.
All right. So you can see a young Metallica in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's the couch over there, but I got to show you this one picture because
Love it.
James made me up. I wanted James to give me his guitar so I could put it on the wall and have everybody sign it up. But he's like, I can't do it because I only have one guitar. So James, I don't know if you, wait a minute, let's see if you can see this. Okay, you see, James made this for me. Okay, can you read it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay,
Awesome.
James did that with a couple, and that's a skin off Lars's kit. It's
Love
the
it.
only skin left on that kit. I tried to get it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it does say Cliff Burton signed it, and that's what they wanted to name the first album, as everybody knows, which was Metal Up Your Fucking Ass. But Cliff wrote, fucking Metal Joe, thanks for all you've done for us, and we look forward to playing in the basement again. That's a pretty cool piece. I sent pictures of it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they didn't believe me.
Oh my God.
When they got inducted and stuff. So yeah.
You were there with them when they got inducted. So why? You should have believed you.
I was there. Yes, I was there. That's where I got to meet Cliff's dad, Ray Burton, and stuff there. So,
Okay,
Old Bridge, New Jersey has a pretty big part with Metallica. So,
for sure.
and
for
out of all that
sure.
craziness, I just want to slip this thing. Out of all that craziness, we started a 50c3 charity foundation where we raise money for kids that can't afford musical instruments and lessons. So, out of all that craziness, Metallica let us use their signature letters in the logo.
Nice.
Yeah. They donated a bunch of drum skins, and they help me out anytime I need memorabilia to auction off and stuff. So,
Well,
throw that in there.
Well, out of everything, I know there's like a lot of history. What would you say is your favorite album and song then, knowing them from like back then when they were starting?
Well, the demo's kind of special because that's what kicked it off. But how could not Fade to Black be one of my favorite songs when I found out he wrote it in my house?
There
You
you
know what I
go.
mean? So, yeah, that's pretty wild, and for the time period it took to find that out. And I think Trapped Under Ice came from, I lived on this farm that had 29 acres, and in the back was like about the size of a hockey rink that was like they used it. It was a pond that they used to water the plants and stuff back in the day. And we were out there one time. There's actually a picture in one of the box sets of them, Lars and James, on it with a hockey stick and stuff. And I think that was the first time they stood on ice because they were from California on that pond. So maybe they thought they were going to be trapped under ice at Metal Joe's house. So I don't know.
There you go. Great
Fade to
story.
Black came from there, so it was pretty wild. When they played in the basement, with Kurt and a full PA, because we used to DJ, we got to hear all those songs before they were even recorded, from Ride the Lightning, so pretty wild. So
Very great stories, Joe. Look who just popped into the room.
Hi,
Chris
Chris.
Caffrey. Welcome.
Hi, I'm back.
I know Chris is
Oh, it's okay. I didn't even go yet. No, I'm just.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, but I told him I'm so swamped behind things because I started getting drum tracks for a record and I've got to get my guitars done, and I wrote the songs and I'm trying to remember my own song, but I've got to go. I've got a lot of stuff to do, so time is really limited. So
do
You want to do your favorite album and song and stuff?
if I could, that would be great.
Yeah,
I mean,
or you can do it and pop out and tell us your story. You actually warmed up for Metallica.
yeah, actually, I found one of the original ticket stubs. This is a ticket stub from the actual theater show. It was Metallica, Overkill, and my band Antsy. I was 16 years old and in high school. I went to high school the next day after I opened up for Metallica when I was 16 years old, and that was 1984 at the State Theater in Port Jervis, and I believe it was their first show that they did on the East Coast. I'm pretty sure it was.
Were you there, Joe?
Yeah, just was the flyer from the.
Oh yeah! Wow, you got the flyer. Cool.
From the hardcore happenings. Yeah, I used to collect things and now I just lose them.
Yeah, I know.
I collect things now, but they wound up getting lost, and I find them like 3 years later in boxes, and I'm like, oh, there it is. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's really hard to, again, like anything, to pick any one from Metallica, especially out of the first 4 records. It's difficult. But when I was teaching guitar lessons when I was 17, I graduated high school at 16, and that year when I was 17, before I left New York State, I was teaching a lot, and all the kids at that point wanted to learn off of Ride the Lightning. I mean, Ride the Lightning to me is probably, that to me is the one that I'm going to have to name as my favorite one, and I think in a lot of ways is probably the most important one as far as what was with their writing and their music. I mean, there's a lot of things on Master that I like, and there's a lot of things on Injustice for All that are really cool, and of course the Black records for them over the top, and Kill 'Em All was the start. But I think Ride the Lightning was really, to me, was their statement, like, here we are record, and it really and it affected, I think, a lot of people in the direction that they went at the time. I think that pointed people in that direction. There was a lot of people that wanted to do thrash, and there was a lot of thrash bands, and not many of them besides Megadeth, really, in my opinion, were that good at that time either. A lot of the thrash bands got better as they went on, but Metallica and Megadeth kind of, I think, really both started off, pretty dead on, being really good out of the gate at that particular style of music, because they were really, a big part of inventing it. So I think, for me, Master, it just is really, Ride the Lightning just really had that element about it. And it was frustrating for me because I wanted to do music like that. And my brother, who was a drummer in my band, wanted to do stuff that was like Whitesnake. So there was always that push and pull. And I went into Sabotage. And when I left Sabotage to work with him in the band that we had, he wanted to go back in that direction. And I did it. And that's eventually what stopped me and my brother playing together. And it was just something like that. I have, I don't know if any of you guys had that Metal Massacre vinyl record I have one of them in my other room, and I was running late. I was going to try to find it, but that, was one of the first things that I'd seen that on. But the funny story I have about that show, there's a couple funny stories. Number one, I got a call from, you remember Shari and Harry, the ones that were working.
From Rock and Roll Heaven North,
Yeah.
Harold and Shari.
They called me because Metallica needed somewhere to stay, and they didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I asked my mom when I was 16 if Metallica could stay at my house, and she wouldn't let Metallica stay at my house when we were playing that show. And it's really funny because I think that, my relationship with that band, I know them pretty well. Well, James would always come see Sabotage, and they were both really big Sabotage fans. And I probably would have had a really different relationship with that band if they would have actually came and stayed at my house that time, which I thought was kind of funny. But when we played that show, I had a singer that was pretty obnoxious. His name was Blaze, and he went up when nobody knew. We went on first, and Overkill, he set up pyro and lit it off during our set. And I just remember, I don't remember who it was some really big, tall dude from Metallica's crew guy. And he came to the side of the stage with the sign that says, "This is your last song." So we wound up getting thrown off the stage after like 4 songs for lighting off pyro, opening it up for Metallica. But it was cool for me. And I went to the school the next day. We opened for Overkill about 6 months before that. And actually, really did well at that show, and that's why we got asked back to play that one with Metallica. But it was pretty funny. But they would always come. James especially would come see Sabotage. I remember one time he came to see us at the Stone in San Francisco, and he was a little tipsy. He fell on my guitars. I had like a small rack of guitars out of my guitar coffin, and he fell on it on the side of the stage, and I come over looking for him. I couldn't find him, and there was James Hetfield laying on the ground on my guitars, but it was pretty funny. But we would always run into him all the time. But that's pretty much what I have for them. Like I said, I think my whole relationship with that band would have been so much different if I actually was allowed to have them stay in my house that day when we opened for them. But as a 16-year-old kid, I think it was pretty cool though to be, my experience as a guitar player in high school was opening for Metallica one night and then going to school the next day. So I think that's a pretty good Metallica story. But they're just, an extremely important piece of musical history, like AC/DC or anything like that. That's stadium big. When you make it to the point of being stadium big worldwide, you've got something internally inside the history of music that just rises above to a level like Queen and things like that. And that's what I think Metallica just nailed that. They have that importance in the statement of what they did, and they never really, other than the unfortunate accidents that they've had, like, a lot of the bands I've been in, they have always been pretty much, the same once they got out of the gate and got to that, the first 4, really what I consider, the members of that band that were the main ones. No offense to Dave and everything with his beginning with Metallica, but they had that group of 4, and with the exception of their bass player situation, which you can only imagine. That they would still be that 4 if that accident didn't happen. That band stuck together all those years, and they stick together like glue. And it's like, I know that they've all got the anything anybody could dream of in this world, and they still just go back to being Metallica. And I think there's still something about them when they step on stage. They make that giant stadium, feel like it's the club. They just have that element about them as people and as musicians. And, you know, people can analyze their records front to back, top to bottom, but it's like, I'm sorry, you throw the success of somebody like Metallica in your back and you try to freaking keep producing the same thing over and over. I got to hand it to those guys for being as productive as they have been and as steady as they have been throughout the years. And, you know, with James getting himself together, you know, personally and physically and keeping that voice, he's a great singer too. I think that his voice is a lot better than people realize or give him credit for, just because they made it as technically more of like a thrash metal guitar band. But that's it. That's what I got to say, man. I had nothing but
Thank you.
respect for that band. Nothing
Well,
but
thanks for joining in tonight, Chris. I know you're busy recording, working on the new album with,
yeah, it's the Spirits of Fire record. And I
Spirits of
got
Fire, yep, yep.
I was funny. I wrote the record and then I was waiting for everything to get going. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, this time I'm not going to record any of my rhythm guitars until I get the drum tracks. And I didn't know when it was going to start. They're like, okay, here's the drums. And I hadn't played the songs in like 8 months. So I'm going to these demo tapes of these songs that I wrote, and I can't remember what the songs are. So I'm going and relearning my own songs and finishing tracks for so I'm trying to do it as fast as I possibly can, but it's a ton of work. And then I've got Oliva on top of me for some stuff that we're doing with the possibility of a new Sabotage thing. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then I've got the solo work. So I'm in the middle of 3 records at once.
Hey, you're keeping busy. You're keeping busy.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It all sprung together at the same time. So like I was working on all 3, but now it's like all 3 are happening exactly at the same time. So
well,
but I'm gonna run and I'll
thanks for giving us your time tonight. And that's where I first met you. I mean, I didn't even meet you that night, but I'm like, we're going to see Metallica and Overkill, and I'm like, oh, these young kids from Goshen opening up, and it was you. Then we've become great friends over the years, of course, you know.
Yeah. So I'll watch this video tomorrow when I get up and see what everybody else had to say.
All right, great, Chris. Well, thank
you.
you.
Fast forward through me because I'm gonna be the worst.
And it's Robin.
Bye.
Good night, guys. Good night.
Bye.
And it's Robin's turn next.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you gotta go sooner or later.
Yeah, it's just okay. I'm not gonna even pick a record.
Then we're going back to Joe after you because we're going to hear more stories from Joe.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to pick any record. I'm just going to say, like, I will support them through whatever that they have done, even up till now. And I don't care what anybody has to say, because I will support my man through thick and thin, no matter what. And I don't care. But I mean, nothing beats the first 4 records. I remember hearing them, and I remember getting like a demo, and then I remember getting like a cassette that had no cover, it just had it just said Metallica on it. And I was like, what is this? And like Trapped Under Ice was on there, and I didn't know it was Trapped Under Ice because there was no title. And I thought like it was I'm Da Dangerous, but obviously that's stupid because Trapped Under Ice is so much better, you know, like that title. And I mean, I have so many things. Like my senior quote in high school was time moving slow, the minutes seem like hours. That was my senior quote.
That's awesome.
And I mean, yet I think every episode that we do, I talk about skipping school to go meet a band. Metallica is no exception.
Yeah, you do.
I love it.
But with Metallica though, my mom actually like knew. I was like, I'm not going to school, and she let me take a car and drive everywhere to go see Metallica. I didn't go to school for like a week. She was like, yeah, there's no stopping you. I can't stop you from this. I'm like, no, it ain't happening. I'm going. And I just like, I think I cried constantly. I sat backstage and I just cried. I remember Jason turning to my friend asking if I was okay at one point, like at one of the shows, because I just cried constantly, like it was a mess. And I still cry all the time. I like, even this last time I cried the whole time, and all I could say was I was sorry. And I don't know, like it was really bad. So, I mean, there's just so many things. I have stories that I can't share. Also, they're all good. And I don't even know. I have, there is a story, like I used to write, I have them here actually. like in 10th grade, we used to write stories about like every week. And I wrote a story about, every story was about like Metallica and James Hetfield, I think, really. And the one was, I wrote an entire story about how I wanted to go on tour with Metallica, marry James Hetfield, be their laundry girl. That's what I wanted to do. That was my career aspiration back then. And
Oh my God.
and
That's
I
great.
remember James married Francesca and she was their freaking laundry girl. I called my mom. I was like, she stole my entire effing life. I was so upset. Like, it was like ridiculous. I was like, she stole my entire life. Like everything, laundry, James, tour, like everything. It was really bad. But anyway, yeah,
That's
I
funny.
mean, and Fade to Black is, I love that song. When Cliff passed away, I think I played it nonstop over and over and over again for like probably 3 weeks. And it was one of the first songs that I had in a guitar magazine, and I sat down and I transcribed like all like the notes and everything and learned it on guitar by myself. That was one of the first songs for that. And James Hetfield's my favorite rhythm guitar player ever. There's no beating him on rhythm guitar. Best down, like the picking, forget about it. Everybody's so quiet. Listen, they're like, oh my God. Okay. So
We're listening to you.
I can go on for hours and
Keep
like
going.
get all
I
like,
mean, you and Joe are gonna fill out the rest.
I'm gonna get to Joe because like it's just crazy. I just have like, I just want to like think like, you think back like on everything and where they are and and people are like, oh, they're not. I mean, yeah, they're not really a thrash band. They're a metal band, and they're probably one of the biggest metal bands of all times. And
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, like, just like from what they went, like what they came from to where they are now is just unbelievable,
Yeah.
as like,
Stadium.
from being at that extreme for back in the day to be as big as they are. And I don't think that, like we said before, I don't think that they've ever forgotten where they come from. They did all those shows in small clubs. They did the record store day, invited everybody out for that. They just do all kinds of things. And, and I mean, I still see them come to shows, and I've seen James rock out to Creator, like, and I'm just like, okay, crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and like, they still have that same mentality, I guess, that they had back in the day, which has to be hard when you have like that much popularity and like where they are money wise and everything. But I have a weird question because Joe, you would know probably more. So with Dave Mustaine, you hear the stories, but what was your take on that? And what would you guys think is like where Metallica would be if Dave Mustaine actually stayed in the band? Like, would they, and I have to also ask like what everybody thinks. I mean, I can't even believe like with Cliff Burton, but I wonder where that route would have taken them. Also, you know what I mean? Like you think about where both routes, like if things didn't happen in that timeline stuff. Does that make sense? I know I'm like,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of what ifs, what could have happened, what could have changed.
yeah, like my first question is like, I want to hear like what the Dave Mustaine thing, because Dave's still bitter.
Who wants to
Dave
answer
is
that?
still bitter completely, which I don't blame him.
Are you asking me about Mustaine?
Yeah, because I mean, you had to have been there with Mustaine and them.
Yeah, no, I can tell you.
Yeah, I want to know like exactly, because I mean, you hear the stories, but you hear him.
So, okay, Metallica gets to New Jersey. Okay, like I said, they end up at Ray's house the first night. Okay, this is the first night Dave Mustaine is in New Jersey. Okay, and I'll just tell you the truth. When Dave wasn't drinking, Dave was a great guy. But when Dave was drinking, he was a fucking asshole. Okay. So the first night he's in New Jersey hanging out with a bunch of metalheads that he don't know. West Coast is a lot different than the East Coast people. Okay. So he's hanging out with us at Ray's house. And We had a friend called Bulldozer Bob who actually went on tour with them, was the drum roadie for a while. And actually we do the Bulldozer Bash for the foundation stuff. So he starts messing, Dave Mustaine starts messing with Bulldozer Bob, you know, and he's getting a little too out of hand. I picked up the motherfucker and I threw him on the floor. I said, "You ain't in California anymore, motherfucker. You're here in Jersey. What the fuck's your problem?" You know, so that was my introduction to Dave Mustaine, which was totally like, is this guy out of his mind? You know, you're in someone else's house and you're acting like an asshole the day one. And then I kind of heard the stories of how bad it was going from California to New Jersey. And then we had that, like I said, he played upstairs, which was really cool because, I mean, not for nothing, Dave Mustaine is unbelievable. Okay, the guy's a great guitar player. He didn't let that tragedy of getting sent home on a Greyhound bus as Kurt Hammond's flying in from California to New York, let him down. You know, that could have killed the guy, crushed the guy's, you know, psyche and stuff. Because I mean, Kurt had to change all the leads in between that time that they knew they were sending Dave home. So my time with Dave was that short because, like they said, they did a couple shows here and there. Dave only did like 3 shows and he was sent back, you know, to California. So it would have been, to me, it probably would have been different because like Dave, if he's here to demo tape, Dave's leads are like, you know, Kurt had to change leads, right? So there's a difference there. How would it be that, like, I know, like, you guys are all talking about Ride the Lightning, which, okay, because as being the newer members in Metallica was, you know, Cliff and Kurt. I mean, you know, Cliff first and then Kurt. So that whole Kill 'Em All album was already like set. So Kurt came in and did change the leads on that. But the progression of that is why you all love that Ride the Lightning, is because now you're mixing in, you know, Cliff Burton, because from talking with James back there, Cliff Burton brought in a whole different thing for James. You know what I mean? Melodies and putting things together. And that's where you see the progression from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning to Master of Puppets. And God only knows what would have happened down the road with, you know, with Cliff being still in the band. But talk about a band that never forgets. I mean, like I say, I mean, there ain't a band that paid their dues like Metallica did. Everything they got, they earned. Okay, just think about it. Okay, you know, they have to get rid of Dave. They come here to New Jersey with all their equipment. All their equipment gets stolen. They go on a European tour. You know, they go on a European tour with no equipment, a couple guitars. You know, and then they record Ride the Lightning out there. You know, and then of course they lose Cliff Burton. I mean, that could crush a band, you know, but not these guys. When I met them, they were kids, you know what I mean? And I knew right away, because they're living with me, man. It's like, you know, they were there for a long time. So I'm right in with the band. I mean, you know, I love the metal, and here's Metallica, but I didn't know at that point Metallica was going to get to the mega status they are now. Nobody did. Johnny Z didn't know. Nobody knew. But you know, I could see it in Lars, because Lars was the freaking businessman. He made sure, and you could see that because he ain't gonna stop. You know what I mean? Even with all the stuff with James and all that stuff, where sometimes I say, you know, these guys got all the money in the world. Why are they killing themselves? Why are they putting themselves out there like that? You know, they don't have nothing to prove. They proved it all. But Lars, he's the freaking pistons that drives the motor, and James is the brains of the operation with what he writes and his, you know, melodies and stuff like that. I mean, James, you know, but they are, you know, the other guys too. I mean, Kurt, and, you know, I love Kurt, and, you know, I think Kurt really doesn't get the recognition that I think he really should get, you know, because he's been on every album, but like he's, you know how it is. There's always a Mustaine thing, and, you know.
Sorry,
Kurt.
Metallica came to say hi.
Yeah.
This is Metallica.
Oh, there's Metallica.
Metallica, my cat, Metallica. You came to say hi.
You really
She
got
wanted
a
to get
thing
a story.
going on. I'm surprised it's not James. It's not James Metallica?
No, this is just Metallica.
You don't have a cat named James?
Not yet. That would be creepy almost.
Okay, all right, so.
Got a pillow with
So
James
all
on it,
all
right,
I'm saying is that, and to this day, there's still really good guys, really like, down to earth guys. But they're over the top, man. I mean, they're the biggest band. Okay, they just had a thing came out, right, with that Billboard thing. And the top 5 albums were all Metallica albums, going back to Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Blackened and stuff. Or they're like the top 5 albums selling right now in 2020. You know what I mean? They're still making
Black
mega
Album
money.
has been on the chart since it came out.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like it's
It-
never
it's
gone
unbe-
away.
yeah, it's unbelievable the power that those guys have. It's amazing. I can't, like, I'm just a metal guy from Old Bridge that loves the music, and then all of a sudden it's dropped in, like, it was like hitting the metal lottery with knowing Johnny Z, going to a store, and then having a place for those guys to come and live. And the next band that came to live with me was Slayer. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's got Slayer stories for days.
So we're gonna bring you back in a few weeks when we do a Slayer episode. How's that, Mel?
Oh God, yeah, I had those guys
Awesome.
living with me too. They played in my basement too, Slayer. So, and Dave, like I tell, and then Anthrax, they used to come down. They never played there and stuff. So at that house, part of the Big Four was there. 2 of the bands played in the basement, Slayer and Metallica. Dave Mustaine played upstairs with Metallica, and the Anthrax guys used to come down and hang out because we had these wild parties, man. I mean, I had bands in the basement with full PAs and stuff. You can get away with a lot of stuff in the 80s that you can't do now. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been awesome telling stories
Definitely.
You got tell the Armored Saint story.
of. Okay,
Sorry.
we were with Metallica, and we went out. I'm not sure if they played with Armored Saint or we went to see Armored Saint.
I
But
saw them play with Armored Saint at L'Amour's with the Wasp.
right, L'Amour's.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was a point in their history where, Lars, I mean, James really just wanted to be a rhythm player. He didn't really want to sing. He was kind of thrown into the singing thing. So they were discussing about, the possibility of getting John Bush to be in Metallica, So I'm sitting there going, I mean, you can't, Kill 'Em All was already recorded. I'm like, dude, you're going to have to sing all them songs. And plus John Bush is like technical compared to your voice. I don't think John Bush would go with Metallica, their
It would
music.
be so weird, I think.
Yeah, it would have been so weird. So I don't know. I told James, I go, dude, you're going to have to sing all Kill 'Em All then anytime one of those songs come out. You can't just, and that guy don't have the voice. Your voice is Metallica. Not that I changed history of it. I'm not saying that I did anything except voice my opinion with those guys. But at one point they were thinking about doing that. So it's kind of a crazy thing.
Sorry, hold on.
How's the guy, is he still on there? Jared? What's he thinking about this? The guy who plays in the Metallica
Yeah, he's
band.
down there. He's here.
Yeah, I'm here. No, so your story about about their gear getting stolen, that was that was the first thing that I thought about when all that happened, and how those guys were just like so young and just starting out, and they probably didn't have like anything. And I read a story about how in that U-Haul was the Marshall Plexi that was like modded by Jose Arredondo or whatever, that they used to record Kill 'Em All. And so they literally had to like borrow a JCM 800 from somebody in Sweden or whatever when they recorded Lightning. I mean, these stories they're crazy, man. I enjoy hearing them.
Okay, I got to finish up the story about Boston. Okay, the funniest part, because I wrote this in the box sets. Those box sets. I wrote stories in the first 2 box sets from Metallica.
Okay.
I have all of them.
And, the funniest part of that whole thing with Boston is about 2 months later, they found the U-Haul truck. And the only thing left in the U-Haul truck was a box of Metallica t-shirts.
What?
Ah,
Yes, a box of Metallica
That is-
t-shirts.
That's
Whoever
funny.
stole the truck had, well, I mean, that was so early in their career. But can you imagine that? They found the t-shirts, but everything else was gone.
That's funny. I hate to make these comparisons because obviously I'm just in a little tribute band or something stupid like that. But so ours was a U-Haul trailer that these guys stole, and the next day we got a call from the cops after we filed our police report and everything. And the U-Haul trailer was like 30 miles down the freeway, and we were just curious, so we knew there was not going to be any gear left in it. So we were
Right.
we went down, just all right, there it is. We opened it up though. The one thing left in there is a bra. We had a souvenir bra that was thrown on stage.
It might have been that girl up there who's laughing's bra. She seems to have problems with her bra, so maybe it was hers.
That definitely wasn't mine on their bus.
Okay. Only
I can't
Metallica,
promise you
right?
that mine wasn't on Metallica's bus.
The mere fact that Metallica can have tribute bands to them is a testament to it, I think. And
sure.
the fact that we actually get paid
Yeah,
to do what
killer.
we do, and all we play is the old stuff. We could probably do much better if we did a different version of Metallica, but just the fact that can exist is a testament to it. And we play small, tiny ass towns, and
Do you,
nobody still knows.
Do you come to the
guys
East Coast?
Do you guys come out Northeast at all, or you always stay out in the Northwest with the touring?
Yeah, I guess there's not that much money in it, right? Because we need a fly-in.
There's got to be something. You could do it.
We need a fly-in gig for that to work
Yeah.
out. We're in Seattle here.
I
And
was
you gotta
just
ask for
thinking,
background.
They should come to the chance, Steve. What do you think?
Yeah, Lynne will hook you up, get you a gig out the chance of Poughkeepsie.
Well, they have to get out here. I could get them a gig, but they have to get out
We
here.
have a lot of tribute bands out here. We have a great Sanctuary Iron Maiden tribute. The Iron Maidens actually are from out in the West Coast, and they come out to the chance and play. So definitely, we'd love to have you come out if we could ever work it out.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd do it for sure.
You wouldn't play any new stuff? I think the new record's pretty good. I don't know if anybody else has heard it.
I was gonna ask you what you think about
I
that.
have not heard it yet.
Okay, let me tell you. I got it. I remember I was on tour in Europe, and I bought it, and I got the advance, from the Met Club. You got the advance copy, I guess you would say. And I was listening to it. I was on tour with actually Exodus and Obituary.
Mhm.
And I was listening to it, and I remember kind of being mad at one point about one song, and I was like, what in the F is this? I kind of got upset for a minute, and I was like, ugh, I can't deal with it. I got all dramatic, and I threw the headphones down, and I was like, no. And I'm like, well, again, I can't let my man down. So I had to give it another listen. And then I actually watched every video that they did, a video series for every song on that record.
Yep.
And I watched the videos along with the songs, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's some good songs on, really good songs on there. I like Atlas Rise a lot. Spit Out the Bones, good. There's a lot of good tunes on there. I feel like it's one of those albums, and I said this about the Van Halen, I feel like it should have come out earlier.
Yeah, it definitely brought them more back into the thrash metal.
It brought
era,
them back into
where
their
they
older.
were driving in different roads that I didn't know where they were driving for a while.
It would have followed the Black Album really well, I think.
I think so too. It took you back to that. It's really,
I was so disappointed when Load came out. You had the real story how you threw your headphones down. I remember, I was a big fan still. Load came out. We were in the store one day. We were playing it. I was with a couple of girls that worked at the shop. I actually pulled it out of the deck and I snapped it in my hand. I was so mad.
Oh, shit.
But, there's some decent songs on there, but it's
There's some
what I
good-
was
like,
looking
that's the
for,
thing, I'm still bitter
I was
that
like-
they lost the Grammy to Jethro Tull. I'm still never gonna get over
You're
that. I
still
think
mad
I
at Jethro
posted about
Tull
it.
over
I
that.
posted about it on
Never hear
Facebook.
that.
I was all still mad. I think only a couple months ago, I was like, God, bleh.
Yeah, You were asking if anyone really listens to Jethro Tull.
Yeah, I'm like, who listens to Jethro Tull still? Like, I was like really upset because
It was
like
mad.
I'm really still.
I'm like,
I'm having
yeah.
PTSD about it still. I don't know.
Who cares about the Grammy Awards anyhow? Screw
I
it.
don't know. I don't really, but it was just like the point, I guess.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
they're,
yeah,
you know,
I
I
know.
mean, they were like
That
the
shows how
biggest.
screwed up the Grammys are, thinking that Jethro Tull's a metal
They were
band.
like, you know,
Right.
Metallica
exactly.
at that point was like at their biggest. Like that was their
Yeah.
like wow, you know. And I would just, but I have to. I mean, I'm pretty sick of hearing One when they play it. I don't even know if they're still happy playing One. They don't look like they are.
Yeah,
Sometimes, like I like,
yeah.
you know, it's. I mean,
I think
I don't
a
get
lot
to
of
see
bands
them
do.
very often. Like it's just very, you know, because I'm like from when they started touring, I was always touring, so
Sure.
I would have to like, oh, Metallica's playing, yay, and I get to go see them.
Yeah,
You know, it was.
I haven't seen them since the Black album, so.
Yeah, no, I just saw them. Well, like, yeah, 2019 on their last tour when I
Okay,
drove for 1,000,000 hours and to go to Indianapolis
that's a
from
good
Florida,
question.
like basically.
That's a good question for our viewers tonight. I want you guys that are in the comments to please mention your favorite albums, your favorite songs, some of the concert you guys have seen too in the comments, please. Thanks.
Yeah, and I have to bring up the fact that, like, I remember, and then they started getting the bad rap around the Napster thing when everybody turned their back and everybody was like so mad. But you know what? I defended them. I even defended Lars because I was like, he's right, because like, and everything he said, look what happened. He was right. You know, he was not looking out for Metallica like money. He was looking out for everybody, like, and all the bands like out there saying, look, you guys are not paying attention. You are going to lose your money, and this company's coming in and taking it from you. This has nothing to do with Metallica. This is
Now we
a
have
conglomerate
Spotify.
thing.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And he was right, but everybody was so mad at him. I don't know if you remember.
Oh,
If everybody
yeah.
remembers that. Everybody's like, "Oh,
Everybody
fuck
wants their music
Metallica."
for
They're
free.
so. It's like, but he's not talking about Metallica. You know, he's talking about, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but again,
I agree
I
with
could
you on
be.
that myself. I agree with you, but now there's a whole generation of people out there that think that music should be free.
Well, that's what,
Yeah.
you know, because Napster start like that whole thing. That was
Yeah.
the main.
And that was what, 20 years ago now already, right?
I don't know. It feels like only 5 years ago, but it's probably.
That's a while back. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
that was,
after that, and then now you got Spotify, and you know how
Yeah,
much
and all of them,
Spotify's
like,
paying the bands.
The money's like a quarter of the cent. Like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks, cool. You know.
What Metallica album was out at that time when the Napster thing happened? I forgot.
Oh God, that was probably that had to have been, maybe it was the Black Album or Load, right?
I think it was probably more like Reload or Saint Anger, maybe.
gonna
I think
look.
that was around like the late 90s, early 2000s.
See, that was only 10 years ago.
Someone pop it in the comments. I think it's later than 10 years. Yeah.
It feels like only 10 years ago. I lost a
Yeah,
decade.
time
Oh,
flies when we're
it
having
was
fun, right?
2000. It was 2000.
Wasn't the controversy?
Damn.
Huh? Okay.
Jared,
No, I was just gonna say, wasn't the controversy over that song they did for the Mission Impossible movie or whatever?
It was basically they
I
were
disappeared.
mad. Like he spoke up because it focused on like copyright infringement and right when digital downloads were happening.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You know, because even, you know, if you go back and look at old contracts, there was nothing about digital downloads because nobody had that back then. Everything was, you know,
Physical format.
a physical format.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, computers started coming out and everything started becoming like, oh, here, check out this, you know, and people started sharing digitally. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah,
Very cool.
crazy. So
So does Joe have any more stories, Robin?
Joe's
or-
got a lot of stories. Like,
Oh, does he want to tell us anymore? Or is he getting tired? Are you guys getting tired yet? Do you want to go home? I'll be like,
does
"Oh,
anybody
so you
have any final thoughts before Joe keeps going, or before I keep
Oh, man.
talking? And
Yeah, anybody final thoughts from Lynn? I know Lynn had to pop off pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna pop off and go watch a movie with my son, so.
Okay, well,
hopefully
thanks for having
it's
me.
a good movie.
Well, I don't know, he's picking it and he's 15, so we'll see.
Oh, it could be. Could be
I
good.
don't know.
Well, thanks for joining us, Lynn.
Oh
and
my
check
God,
out
I
Lynn
had
on
so
Monday
much
nights
fun. It was,
on the
thank
Sea
you
of
for
Tranquility.
having me, Steve.
Yeah, check her out on
I'll
the Sea of
see-
Tranquility every
Yeah.
Monday night on the Hudson Valley Squares. And thanks, Lynn. And we're gonna keep
Thanks,
telling
thanks,
stories for a
Robin
little.
and Metal
Thank
Joe, and
you.
I'll see you, Rich,
later.
and maybe
Hopefully
your
I
band will
see
play.
you, hopefully I see you soon.
Yeah, well, I guess we announced that Jeff Tate's coming to the Chance, I know, in November. So if you're not on tour, like
I'm
I said,
gonna-
I don't even know
yeah.
if you like him, but it's the first
Maybe
show
I'll be
where
on tour with
everyone's
Jeff
gonna get
Tate. You never
together.
know, hopefully.
Jeff Tate
Yeah.
actually just played in Florida recently,
Yeah, he
right?
played in Florida a little bit ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think he's actually kicking off that tour at Daryl's in September, actually, anyway, because I'm a stalker, but. you know.
Oh, yeah.
So we can talk about stalking. I
Oh,
understand.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm a stalker, all right.
We'll do
I
a
have, like,
stalking
I have,
Thanks,
episode
guys.
next
I
week.
appreciate it.
See you
I'll
I'll
later.
see you Monday, Steve, all right? On See You
Yeah, for
Tranquility.
sure. Rock and roll.
All right, peace.
Right? Yeah. I understand the stalking. I have James Hetfield stalking since like 83 or something.
I have not stalked them at all. Or you.
I have like you see, that's a problem too. Like I tour with all those dudes and like they have to hear, like Jonah, like they have to hear me constantly, like, so tell me about blah blah
This-
blah. Tell me about this. I want to hear. They're like, that's why nobody wanted to do this, because
And
they
that's why
know that I would just
Robin said, I'm gonna have this guy, that guy. And she goes, no, nobody wants to hear me talk about it. They're not coming.
nobody
That's why
wants
you
to
got us
listen to
guys.
me. They all blame me that they can't go on tour with Metallica because I'm on like the like list. Like I'm too stocky. I'm like,
She's slightly obsessed. Do you want to show us your James Hetfield pillow?
no, actually, you want to see it?
No.
Want to see it?
I
It's
think
my,
it's got
it's my.
James like hooked on a wall or something. doesn't it?
I
Oh.
didn't.
No.
Just so you
Don't
know,
laugh at
I
that.
didn't get this for myself. This was a gift.
Okay.
So hold on.
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys all came on. We have a small group tonight, but I think it's been real fun.
This is my
Yeah.
pillow. Can you see it?
Stories.
I'm gripping my
Oh, yeah.
pillow tight.
There's a picture of you with him. Is that super?
Yeah, I don't know why they used my Halloween picture, but I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. I thought that was the one where he was hanging from the ceiling.
No, you see, that's like a good one though. I like it.
Last
Right.
week, Rich was here for our 2.5-hour marathon with Philip Sasan.
For
No.
Oz-
Getting ready to go off the air, and here comes Phil back. And what are we gonna do? We gotta stay.
And then I got this. Then my friend made this one where James is
Oh.
wearing one of my band name T-shirts. He's wearing a
That's
Drakina
awesome.
shirt. I could take her around my house, but that's a whole other. We'll save that for another day.
You could show us Moses guitars and
I know. Well, you see my shirt.
yeah. She's a super. I had another super Metallica fan coming on tonight, but he got stuck working at Red Lobster. My good
Oh
friend.
well, I like
Johnny
Red
Cash.
Lobster. That's a
I know he's
Jersey
gonna
thing
watch
to
us
do.
tomorrow, so I threw a shout
By
out to
James
him. I just
Hetfield.
texted him, and
By James Hetfield coffee cup.
it almost looks like a Johnny Cash cover.
But I mean, that's all like just within like reaching distance. So
So,
I have way
what,
more things.
what other stories do you want Joe to tell us tonight? You got any more?
If anybody wants to share any stories, I mean, you
I
know.
told mine.
I got a
already.
question for Joe. I got a
Question
question.
for Joe.
Okay.
Do you own like the No Life for Till Leather demo or the Power Metal one or any of those early things?
No, we used to DJ and we had all kinds of stuff, but you know, as somewhere along the line, moving, you know, things got lost. I don't have any. The most famous thing I got is that drum skin, you know, because James made it and it came off Lars's thing from back then. But there was, I mean, I don't know. That's got to be worth something if you have the demo from way back then, you know, because Lars did them himself, you know, and sent them out.
Yeah.
He was big. That's what's funny about Napster. I always think, you know, Lars up there going crazy about it, but he was right. But back in the day, he was the biggest tape trader that there was going. You know what I mean? Like
Well, everybody did tape trading back then. That was like the main. I still
Yeah, it
have
was
like
all
bags of
different,
stuff and
yeah.
crates of stuff, but like the
Yeah.
Napster thing was just, yeah.
yeah, that's flat out wrong. He was totally right. I mean, you know, and he took a lot of flack for it, but he was
Yeah.
looking out for himself and everybody else. All I can really say, like my last kind of thing is, it was kind of cool. I mean, really cool to be able to, you know, sort out with a band, them and Slayer too. If you were into the whole metal scene at that point,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
those are the two biggest fans out of it. That and both of them, like Lars was definitely the business guy. But like, with Slayer too, they were like party guys, man. I mean, I had a ton of fun with them, and I had a ton of fun with Metallica too, but they were like more on a mission of, they knew which way they had to go and what it took to get there. And obviously with getting rid of Dave Mustaine, because they didn't think that was going to go over real good with his, way he would turn from Jekyll and Hyde type of situation with the drinking. Which hopefully I think he got it under control now. But all I can say really about Metallica is they never forgot. I mean, they didn't forget. I mean, they had us write stories for the box sets. They invited us to me, Rocket Ray, and then another one of my buddies, Reb, who was a guitar tech with Bulldozer Bob, on what I call the Winnebago tour. The Winnebago tour left Old Bridge, Winnebago with Raven and Metallica in it, and that's how they started. And they ain't riding in no limit. They're not riding in no Winnebagos no more with what they got going on. But then they didn't forget. I mean, I had some issues with James, but then we worked it out, and they really had a respect for what for what we did with helping them out in the beginning, because a lot of bands wouldn't care, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's the past. But I mean, for them to look up, they didn't even know my last name, but they found me and Ray, and they invited us to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We were at that party at the House of Blues with Jimmy Page and Joe Perry and Flea, and about 100 people that they were all people that had done something good for Metallica. I mean, they flew us in, they put us up at the Hilton, had that party on Friday night, and then we got to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. And the people that we met, like on the train coming from because they gave you a certain way to go, from the airport to the hotel. So we were running into people from like frickin' some Arsh, what was that magazine, Arshcon or something?
Archok.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
We met him on the train. We met all these people that were all going to the Metallica thing. So, that was really cool. And then like you were talking about Hardwire, I think it's an unbelievable album. They invited me and about 10 people to go to Webster Hall in New York, where they did that for the first time. That was like another thing. I was at because I wrote the stories in those box sets, they invited me to the record store thing you were talking about. Yep. And then I got to go to the Metallica mansion after that, and I had a party there. And like I said, with the foundation, they let us use their signature letters, and they helped us out with that stuff. So, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, they didn't forget. They could have turned their backs on us guys, but they never did. I mean,
that's really cool.
Yeah, they're coming out with like I don't know what they're doing, but they interviewed a bunch of people, and they interviewed me and my Rocket Ray, who was, my real good friend back in the day and still is. They're putting together some kind of documentary. I know right now they're working on a new album, and they'll be ready to rock. Yeah. They're fucking Metallica. You know what I'm saying? It's unbelievable. Their whole story. Nobody paid their dues more than I think Metallica did, and they kind of deserve everything they got. I mean, they did it their way, right? You talking about videos? They didn't want to do no videos. They weren't going to cop out to the MTV thing.
I remember that. Well, I remember that. Yeah, or they weren't doing
They
videos.
barely had. They only had like one video. Like
right.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, talk about doing it their way. Like what's that song? Nothing else matters and stuff. We live our lives, we live it our way, which is really cool. You know what I mean? So it like I said, it was like hitting the lottery for the town of Old Bridge because of Johnny Z and Marcia Z doing what they did.
Yeah, even the respect that they paid to the Zazulas when she passed was like I cried a little.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, very
May she rest
cool.
in
I
Yeah.
had, you know how much I love the Zazulas and stuff. So I was like, ugh.
I got a question for
Yeah,
Metal
no, it
Joe.
was definitely a cool, Lars and James both, I mean, they lived there. They got to New Jersey and Johnny was like, they had a couple young kids and they, here's Metallica, but they weren't Metallica, you know what I mean? They were just, young kids
in the
partying,
band, right? Then, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he couldn't put up with them. So Ray had no room in his house, and like I said, I had a house on 29 acres, so it was free for all there. And they they got to a place where Johnny didn't have to worry about him, so it was definitely cool. And like I said, that house should be like put in a museum because of the history that's in there.
I want the
Definitely
James
should have some
Hetfield.
kind of
I
a
want the James
marker in front of it or
Hetfield
something.
faded
Yeah,
black.
yeah.
No, I want the James Hetfield
Wow.
faded black couch cushion. Just
Yeah, I don't have that couch, but
Just-
Yeah, where's
got a
the picture
picture
of
of
the
it.
couch still? A funny story.
I asked him
my,
if he had a picture of the couch.
my
I've
friend in
already
New York-
asked.
my friend in New York City actually, when Ronnie James Dio, he's got Dio's couch in his apartment.
You see, that's awesome. Like,
That's a whole other story. But I had a question for Metal Joe. We were talking about the shows in Middletown on the Kill 'Em All tour. Did you come up into this area when they were playing up there, like the Port Jervis
was
gig or
that-
the Middletown gig?
Was that with Dave Mustaine?
No, it wasn't with Dave Mustaine. That was the
It was
Kill 'Em All.
Kurt. No, I didn't get up there that far, but I was at they played in a roller skating rink
Oh,
in Old Bridge. Was on Route 9. They played in it was called Hunka Bunka. Actually, it's Starland now in Sayreville. They
yeah,
played
I go to
there.
Starland. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Crazy.
well, it used to be Hunka Bunka. They played there. They
What was
played
it
at this
called?
place
Hunka
called.
Bunka?
Hucka
That's what it
Bucka.
was named when they played Hunka Bunka. Yeah.
No,
I'm
glad
that
they
was,
changed
so
the
that was a
band-
roll.
Menu name.
I'm sorry, Robin. That was a roller skating rink at one time. Starland Ballroom.
No, the roller skating rink was a separate
Ah.
gig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Johnny Z put that on at a roller skating rink. Then they played one time. They backed up Twisted Sister at the Fountain Casino.
I remember that place. Yeah.
Yeah, Fountain Casino. They had a lot of big acts. But I was at the first gig with Kurt. That was up in somewhere in New York, I think. That was that when Kurt joined the band. But we didn't get like up to Middletown to see him there at that point.
Chris Caffrey was thinking that Port Jervis, so I guess we'd have to look on I know that the stuff's on the web somewhere, is that Port Jervis was one of the first gigs. Maybe that was that one. But the one in Middletown, you said you did some liner notes with the box sets, the Kill 'Em All box set has that show in that box set, the Middletown, New York Rock 3. It's spelled wrong. It's spelled JB's like a B, and what it was just JB's Rock 3, which at one time was the fast lane up here.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. There's a really in that box that's a cool picture from the living room and stuff, which is Kevin Hodak. Luckily, he was starting out, wanting to be a photographer, and he came down the house, and thank God he did, because that's like the most famous picture that we have. It's a black and white shot of, Kurt and James and Lars and the four of them together in that picture, which we don't have many. See, that's what's terrible too, is it wasn't the age, of the cell phones. We had no video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think we talked about that before. Like, I'm just like, in between Brian and Harold, in San Francisco, I'm like, how did they have so many photos of everything, like, with the murder in the front row, like the amount of pictures and the organization. I'm like, what in the heck? Like I swear Brian posts something constantly like, taken by me on this date when I was, 9 years old. Or maybe not 9, but you know what I mean? Like, how are you so organized?
He had somebody with a camera or someone like, like Jeff Wolf or Frank White or something around here.
Yeah, that's what I like, because I was asking him, like, how many how do you not have pictures? Like, but thinking about it back then, we didn't really take pictures of anything.
Yeah, who thought, Yeah, who thought Metallica was going to be that big? I mean,
Yeah.
I wish, because I don't have no video of them playing up. I mean, can you imagine? Because I mean, they called up looking when they were documenting their stuff. I mean, playing in a bedroom in New Jersey, your first gig, and then in a basement.
Yeah, how is there no video?
Yeah, how come? Because we didn't have
Because
big,
nobody had video
cameras.
cameras.
No,
They were like this big.
yeah.
We got a lot of memories, though. That's
That's all that matters. It's an honor having you on the show. You brought so much to this episode.
He also did that Cliff Burton day that they just had online.
Oh, did you?
yeah.
He did, yeah.
They asked me to do it because I was pretty tight with Cliff. The first day they came to Ray's house, that was the first place they went to anywhere that was the same night with Dave Mustaine. Me and him kind of hit it off because I was like a big Southern rock guy and a Skinner guy and Blackfoot and, all these Southern bands. And, here comes this band to come hang out and party with us. And all of a sudden, coming in is Cliff Burton. He's got the long red hair. He's got the bell bottoms on. He's got a Leonard Skinner shirt on. So I'm like, who's this crazy looking dude with Metallica with, bell bottoms and stuff. So me and him kind of hit it off because of the fact that we both love Southern rock and Skinner. And I got to drive around getting high with him and, watching, it's kind of crazy because like I'd be driving my car around and, we're getting high and we're playing music. And then you turn over there to the right and there's Cliff Burton banging his head to Skinner. The guy was
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah, this guy was a maniac in the car with the headbanging. I mean, he was like headbanging not in time and stuff, but I was able to have a killer, really good relationship with him. And then, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned that, but I ran at the House of Blues the night before they got inducted. I was walking around and there was this little old guy. I didn't know who he was, but he had a Cliff Burton. He said, "Our Hall of Famer" on there was a picture of Cliff. So, I'm talkative. So I went up to him and I'm like, "Hey, that's a great," because this guy was like 85 years old. He just died like last year, 90 something. Really great guy, just like Cliff, Yeah. So I walk up to him and I'm like, "Wow, that's a really cool shirt, man." I said, I had them guys stay with me right in the beginning. And this is Ray Burton. He goes, I almost fucking had a heart attack. He goes, "Hey, you had Cliff where, in New Jersey?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you Metal Joe?" I'm like, "What?" He got, here's the old Cliff's father. And he's like, I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, Cliff used to tell me all the things that you did for Metallica and him when they didn't have no money or food or anything." I was like, "Wow, man." And then me and him hit it off. So I went from Cliff Burton to Ray Burton, and me and him were tight. I would call him and stuff. We would get, talk on the phone. And anytime that we would meet, like, when he was, in New York or whatever, or coming into a show. So I feel so blessed in life because, I got to hang with Cliff. And I got to hang with his father, you know what I mean? And the apple don't fall far from the tree, because Cliff was a guy, man, no matter how big or whatever. He didn't get to the super. He's Cliff Burton, but yeah, he didn't get to the superstar status. That came like right after the, Master of Puppets thing. And then they started taking off with all the things, but he would have been just a normal guy that, if you got to meet him, and a nice, like, down-to-earth guy, like one of you, like one of us. You meet him somewhere, you can, the guy would be hanging out. I got to meet him
that one day after that show, and he was like so cool, and he was like our hero from the band,
Yeah, and he never had an attitude, like, he was just like one of the guys, and his father was like the same way. Casey Burton, which was Cliff's half sister, her mission, like later on, like years back, was to get her father out there to the people, because like it was the tie to Cliff. And he was the same type of guy as Cliff was when he would meet everybody. The guy's freaking 90 years old, man. And he would hang out, would talk with anybody. He was down at Orion Festival down in Atlantic City. And he was like, walking around, having a beer, talking with people about his son. And, it was, I mean, it's been, I feel so like blessed, man, and then he just died a couple years back. And, it's been a crazy ride to see where like 4 musicians that are on a mission, and you never know, you know what I mean? Like we just see that Chris Cafferty guy. He was in a band with one of our fundraisers. He played with I think it was Blitz, because Blitz is old,
He was just talking about that a couple weeks ago, I think. Yeah, he was doing something with Blitz and something.
He did a benefit thing at this Emmett's Inn. That was a pretty famous place in Jersey where a lot of like Mountain played there, and Derringer played there, the Plasmatics played there. It was like a little hole in the wall bar, Emmett's Inn. So I put a fundraiser back together because he went to a family restaurant, and Chris was there playing. He's a good guy, man. He helped us out coming out and playing. Yeah. So that's about all I got for tonight.
Awesome.
I'm going to bother you again.
Okay.
We're gonna bring
you
you
got my
back.
number.
We're gonna bring you back for another episode, right?
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I just want to say to Jared, man, keep hanging in there, man. It's you're playing some cool music. We got a band out here in Jersey called Death Metallic, I think is the name of them. They're a tribute band, and we did a bowling alley. We do this bowling alley event. Well, I don't know what the COVID anymore, but we had them play, and Johnny Z and Marcia, that was like about a year or so ago. And they played for us, we had this bowling fundraiser, and then we had Death Metallic play, and Johnny and Marcia came up because he was doing that book signing thing. And you never know. Like, hey, these guys played Metallica for Johnny Z. You should have seen their faces. The dudes in the band were flipping out that here's Johnny Z and his wife who discovered Metallica, and they're playing for they're playing for them. So it was pretty cool. So yeah, we do all these cool events. You go to oldbridgemilitia.org. Like I said, we raise money for kids with lessons, underprivileged kids, and kids that can't afford it, and special needs kids. So we put them in our school, and we give them the guitars or the drum kit and all that kind of stuff. So at all that craziness, which thank God I'm still alive, we got a foundation doing some cool stuff, representing the metal. You know what I mean?
That means a lot, man. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, we're kind of stuck in the COVID,
all of us are,
thing right now with our students, and we're trying to put on an event. We were trying to get like Blitz, and he puts together a little band to come out, but they're restricting us to 150, and we get like 500-600 people, so we can't.
Yeah, well, maybe by the fall, maybe we're gonna start seeing things open up from what I'm hearing, and things are gonna get better with the vaccine. Let's pray. And it's funny, I do shows at a bowling alley up here. We've got a little bowling alley in town. It's our only venue, and we do mostly. We have some original bands, but we do a lot of cover bands like Sanctuary, the Iron Maiden tribute, and British Steel, the Judas Priest, and Sato, the Ozzy Osbourne tribute. But it's been a pleasure having this show tonight, and I think it went over really. I found it quite enjoyable. I know Robin did too, right? Robin, do you want to?
I can tell more stories and hear things.
Do you want a closing statement? We're about an hour 30.
Do I have you want me to do my closing statement is, I love you, James Hetfield.
All right.
Since 83, and it's not changing.
So
Sorry.
James, if you're watching, you got a girl down in Florida.
I think he knows. I think everybody knows.
He knows already. And Jared, do you have a website for your band, or how do we find your band? Do you got a Facebook or something?
We have a website at blisteredearthtribute.com. We're also obviously most of the stuff we do is on Facebook these days. But yeah, I suppose my closing statement would be just thanks to Robin for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Being included.
You're a great guest. Thank you. Rich, what about you? You got anything to say to us? What do you got? Any shows coming up or anything cool?
We're doing interviews usually once a week or once every other week at Metal Asylum, and that's what I write for. And I write for Brave Words, and I do some stuff. I do some stuff for the Metal Hall of Fame also.
Yeah.
And you can see me on, you can see me at Sea of Tranquility once in a while too, doing things. So
Yeah, Pete's a
I
busy
do a couple
man.
different things. What's that?
Peter's a busy man.
Yeah, he's got a lot of
Pops
programming
out
going
so
on.
many shows. I don't know how he does it.
Tally's back for her clothes. She's like, thank you, everybody.
Goodbye, kitty cat.
Thanks for
All right,
having me on
so
there,
is
buddy.
this a wrap tonight? So if you enjoyed what you saw on tonight's program, please take a minute to subscribe and comment your favorite Metallica moments or anything like that, or one you saw them in concert. And we've got a couple episodes coming up next week. I know we're going to be investigating the band Venom, and we're going to be talking about our favorite Venom. We've got Steve Grimmett coming on from Grim Reaper in a week or so, and constantly got some new stuff with John McAtee. He's been for Incantation, couldn't make it tonight. He's rehearsing, but he's been doing a lot of shows for the channel this week. He did an episode with Nile. We had a Swedish death metal episode that came out yesterday and just check us out, Rock Fantasy Files, and support metal. And stay safe, everybody, and rock on like David.
Thank you guys for coming and talking
Bye,
about
everybody.
Metallica.
Thank you.
Take care.